Hi everyone, and today I will be reading a Katsky Executor by me. So let's get into it. It had been a few days since you first started feeling off. At first, it was nothing you couldn't handle, just a dull ache and a bit of fatigue, and you chalked it up to stress or maybe lack of sleep. Katsky had been busy with hero work, and you had not wanted to worry him. He already had enough on his plate. So, you pushed through, convincing yourself that you were totally fine. But today was no different. In fact, it was even worse. The fatigue had settled deep into your bones, making it hard to even move, and your stomach had churned with a queasiness that wouldn't go away. You didn't mention it to him, not wanting to cause him alarm. But as the day wore on, it became even harder and harder to hide how bad you were feeling. You were sitting on the couch, your legs curled under you, trying to focus on the TV when Katsky walked into the living room, his sharp eyes immediately noticing the way that you were slumped, the faint sheen of sweat on your forehead. "You're all right." His voice was gruff, but there was a hint of concern in it. He moved closer, standing in front of you, with his arms crossed, staring down at you like he was waiting for you to admit that you were not fine. But it was a little bit more difficult than that for you. "Yeah, I'm okay. Just a little bit tired." You lied, forcing a smile, and Katsky frowned at that. He was clearly not buying it. But before he could press further, a wave of nausea hit you like a freight train. You felt a sudden urge to get up, your stomach twisting violently. You bolted from the couch, heading straight for the bathroom, your hand covering your mouth. Behind you, Katsky cursed under his breath, following quickly. And as soon as you reached the bathroom, you collapsed in front of the toilet, your body shaking as you retched. But instead of the usual bile, a thick metallic taste filled your mouth. You coughed, then gagged again, eyes widening as you watched blood splatter into the bowl. The sight of it made your stomach drop. "Katsky, I don't know what's happening." Your voice was weak, trembling with panic as you looked up at him, your breath coming in shallow gasps. He stood frozen for a second, his face going pale as he processed what he was seeing. But then, like a switch flipping, he snapped into action. He was beside you in an instant, one hand gently but firmly holding your shoulder, while the other wrapped circles on your back, trying to keep you grounded. "Breathe. Just breathe through it. We're going to figure this out," he commanded, his voice steady but low with concern. Your heart pounded in your chest as you struggled to take in air, the taste of blood still lingering on your tongue. You leaned against him, shaking as another wave of nausea hit, though nothing else came up. You could feel the tension in his body, his muscles coiled tight as if he was fighting the urge to panic himself. But his hand never stopped its soothing motion on your back. I didn't think it was this bad. I thought I was just tired," you whispered, your voice barely audible. "And why the hell didn't you say anything? You've been sick for days, haven't you?" he growled, though there was no anger directed at you, only worry. He nodded weakly, guilt bubbling up inside you alongside the nausea. "I didn't want you to be bothered. I didn't want to burden you."
"Burden me? You're my down partner. You're not a bother or a burden. And you sure as hell shouldn't be dealing with this alone."
He scoffed, and you could tell that he was in disbelief, like you couldn't fathom why he would ever think you were a burden. You swallowed hard, blinking back tears. I just. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was this serious. And he held you a little tighter, his voice a little gentler. Don't apologize. Just next time, you tell me. I don't care if you think it's nothing. You nodded, resting your head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of his protective presence. The trembling in your body had eased slightly, though you still felt weak, your stomach unsettled. What do we do now? You asked quietly, your voice barely above a whisper. Katsky's hand tightened around you for a moment. Then, he pulled back, just enough to meet your gaze, his crimson eyes softening as they locked onto yours. We're going to the hospital. Right now. Your heart skipped a beat at the firmness in his voice. He knew there was no room for argument, especially not when Katsky had his mind set on something. And it wasn't the time to take risks when it came to your health. He was not going to let this slide. Can you walk? He asked, his tone gentler now, as though he was afraid you might break. And you nodded, though your legs felt shaky beneath you. He helped you stand, one arm securely around your waist as he led you out of the bathroom. The world tilted slightly as he moved, but Katsky's grip on you was solid, his presence steady and unwavering. As the two of you made your way to the door, he grabbed your jacket, wrapping it around your shoulders. Don't worry, I've got you. We'll get this sorted out, all right? He spoke quietly, and you nodded, leaning into him for support. And you knew that no matter what happened, and no matter what it was that you had, even though you were scared, you would have him, and he would never stop supporting you no matter what. And at the very least, you could count on that out of everything else.